Today's webinar is called Back It Up. And you say, what is Back It Up all about? Well, to introduce that, let's go ahead and have our poll. So let's open the poll right now. And you should have a window pop up. And if you would, just go in there. There's only 2 questions on the poll. Pretty simple. First question, how many miles do you drive on an average day? Work day or not? Just kind of give us an idea of how many miles you drive. It's kind of an interesting study to see really how many miles people are putting on out there. We at the Trust, at least in the loss prevention department, are probably among the higher end of the drivers in miles per day. However, I have talked to a few law enforcement officers recently in some of the rural counties who said they will sometimes get 250 miles in just an average day of working patrol. So, all right, we're about 3/4 of the way finished. Let's take a look at these numbers. Nobody indicated that they drive 0 miles during a day. 33% drive 1 to 20 miles. Oh, I envy your commute. That wouldn't be too bad at all. And then the remainder of those respondents indicated that they drive between 21 and 100 miles per day. That's quite a few miles. 40% of you are driving a lot of miles. Okay, we'll close that poll out. And hopefully not crash my, that was one of our technical difficulties. The poll caused us some grief this morning. Well, what about that second question that was in there? So that's the number of miles. Oh, I can't make it open. There we go. How many miles do you, or how many feet, how far do you back up on an average day? 36% said 1 to 20 feet. 40% said 21 to 150 feet, and 5% are the overachievers, and they back up more than 150 feet during an average day. Well, what does that tell us? If we're driving on average in an area ranging close to 100 miles per day, but we're only backing maybe 100 feet in a day, that's a pretty small percentage. But over time, we found that backing accidents, those accidents that happen when we're doing that simple task, we call it simple, that doesn't take us very many feet, in the past have accounted for up to 50% of the auto crashes that we have or claims that we receive at the Trust during a given year. Now, there is some positive news on that note. Last year was a much better year for backing crashes. Either that or it was a worse year for other types of crashes, but the percentage of backing crashes did go down. But we think this is an area where all of us can improve. Pass this slide here. So backing crashes are really common, and they kill a number of people, several hundred people across the country every year. 17,000 people are injured in backing crashes, so it's not a small issue. Now, that being said, and we don't, this is not the most expensive cause of claim that we see at the Trust. However, it makes us really nervous. And we also, and we'll talk a little bit more about why that is, but we also at the Trust feel that these are 100% preventable collisions. These are collisions that that simply, in most cases, come down to inattention. That we're not 100% in the game. We don't know our surroundings, and we're not using the resources that we have at hand. And we really believe that through some simple techniques, we could prevent 99 to 100% of these backing crashes. We really feel that is the case, and that's why we're doing this webinar today. And that's really the focus of the webinars, are using some of these, or teaching you some of these techniques. It's not rocket science. It's pretty standard stuff. But if we'll do it every time, we will avoid this type of accident. So why is it such a problem? Why are these backing accidents such a problem? Well, I think many times we back unnecessarily. There are cases where we could avoid backing, but we choose to back anyway, or we back, those overachievers that are on there. They might just have a job that requires a lot of backing, but sometimes people like to prove that they can back a long distance. We put ourselves at risk. What's the big problem with backing? Well, we're facing the wrong direction. We can't see. It's hard. It's difficult to see what we're doing when we're backing, so it puts us at greater risk. We have big blind spots, whether that be our vehicle's design, because it's a large vehicle. It may be because we have some obstructions. I was recently driving along, and I saw another motorist out there driving along, and they had the entire inside of their car filled with balloons, back seat and front seat, and they're driving along without any vision over the majority of their vehicle. It was a really scary thing to see this person out on the freeway driving like this. So we might have blind spots like that. Large vehicles are particularly difficult in backing because of those blind spots and because of the size of the vehicle. But probably the biggest two factors that account for more backing accidents are inattention and distraction. What are we doing when we get into our car and back out of that parking spot? Probably anything but paying attention. Probably anything but doing the things that we should to prevent this really common cause of accident, and really one that's very preventable. Many times we're adjusting the radio, we're checking the heat, we're finishing that phone call, or we're lost in conversation with the person that we're riding with, and we don't give this maneuver we're about to perform, which by all rights is probably one of the most dangerous things we'll do in the day, backing our car up. We don't give it the attention that it's due. We're paying attention to things other than the safety of ourselves and the people and cars and everything around us. So what do people back in? As we see dozens, if not hundreds, of these backing claims come in within a year. We will see people backing into poles, into trees, into parked cars. Sometimes they hit other people, a pedestrian in a parking lot. Sometimes they back over objects and cause damage to their vehicle, and we look at this and say, boy, most of these are 100% preventable. So how do we fix it? What's the real answer to this? And I think there's a good number of the trust members that are working hard on this. I know of various that have implemented backing policies as they've seen their backing accidents going up over the years. Others have implemented various parts of the techniques that we'll talk about shortly to do this, and we've seen some controls happen where our numbers have gone down. But not everybody's doing this, and so we wanted to focus some attention on this. And really, it comes down to us as an individual driver to come out to make a commitment to do these techniques. If we'll do it, we won't have backing accidents. So I'll ask you the question: if I want to never, ever, ever have a backing accident, what should I do or not do? Who should I picked on Doug. Doug unmuted. What do you think, Doug?
Don't back up.
Don't back up. Holy cow! That's a crazy concept. If I never back up, I will never have a backing accident. Okay? And you say, well, that's a pretty simplistic view of things. Well, I'm here to tell you that in a lot of our driving, we can 100% avoid backing up. Ask yourself a question. When was the last time you saw the FedEx driver or the UPS driver back out of your driveway? And you think for a minute, and you'll probably say, you know what? I've never seen the FedEx truck pull into my driveway. He or she always pulls up on the curb and then walks to my house. Why is that? And the reason is because they have a policy. That's what they do. If they can avoid backing, they will do it. And in addition to that, if they can avoid a left-hand turn, they will do that. They design the routes for these delivery companies, so they make right turns because that's a lower risk turn than a left turn. So it's simply making a goal. I'm going to avoid backing up. Now that's a challenge, and Debbie called me on it already and says kind of hard to find, kind of hard in some places. And I agree. There are places where your only option is a 40.
Hey, folks, hang on just a second. Looks like Jason's program may have momentarily quit on him. We'll get him back online here in just a second. So what we need is some elevator music here to play. I'm not going to sing for you. We probably get more complaints.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're back.
I don't know what's going on with that. Sorry, guys. Did the same thing. Something to do with WebEx.
Well, mine just did it about 2 minutes before yours. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, can you guys see my screen now?
Yep, we're seeing screen.
Okay, apologize, guys. Just 1 second. Let me set up just a couple of things so I can see everything. Okay. Oh, sorry. And Debbie called me a chicken while I was gone. All right, let me fix this really quick. Sorry, guys. We're working. Is my video working?
I'm not seeing you.
There we go. Not that it matters.
There you are.
Maybe I should leave it off. Okay, guys, sorry. That's a little disconcerting when everybody disappears. So we're back. Let's talk about. We're talking about avoiding backing. How do I do that? Debbie calls me a chicken. How do we avoid these crashes? Well, it's pretty simple. If I'm pulling into the grocery store and I can get a pull-through spot, I can pull through. So when I drive out, I go forward. I don't have to back. If I could pull up along the curb in an area where I can just pull away, then I can avoid that. Particularly if you're in large pieces of equipment, make this a standard practice. I'm not going to get cornered in to where I have to back because that puts us in a higher risk maneuver. Now, Debbie's right when she tells us it's pretty tough to always be able to pull forward. I agree. It happens. It happens to me. You know, I travel a lot of different locations, and probably once or twice per day, I'll end up in a spot where I have to back. So how do we deal with this? Well, let's go through these. Let's go through some of these procedures and see if we can come up with an overall plan for this. Oh, Doug is chicken for not singing. Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah. That was while you were gone.
Because you had to do a song and dance while I was walking.
I was saying we needed elevator music.
All right. Well, let's just talk briefly about backing to start with. How do we make a safe back? Well, number one, let's prepare to back. So let's clear the snow and ice off of our windshield and all of our windows and all of our mirrors. And you know, we may have a backup camera, and those backup cameras have a tendency to get fogged over with dirt and road grime. And so we'll talk in just a little bit about the importance of walking around your vehicle before you get in. That's the time when we could make a little fix on that backup camera and just clean it off. So we've got good vision. Let's adjust our mirrors, adjust our seats so it fits for us. Even if we're sharing a vehicle, make sure that we can have good vision all the way around. We've got to turn our head. We've got to look at our mirrors and turn our head around, because we don't have the full picture if we don't use all the resources available. Here's another one. Ask others to stay clear and watch. If somebody's doing something in the parking lot, they're out doing a project or something, could you ask them to clear the way, or ask them to watch for you? Have I ever kicked my kids out of the car at the grocery store when we were going to back out and had them spot for me? Yes. It might have had more to do with the kids were being noisy and I wanted them out of the car. But anyway, I have done that. All right. Here's a major part as we prepare to back. We want to eliminate that distraction. We think about this. Most of you, 40% of you, actually better than 40%, better than 50%, indicated that you back fewer than, I don't remember what my number was, fewer than 100 feet during a day. How much time does that take? How much time does it take to back 100 feet? Not a lot. We're making 1 or 2 or 3 backs per day, and that accounts for some years up to 50% of the total auto claims that we have. That's a pretty high-risk activity. So during our back, there should be absolutely no distractions, no phones, no radio. Leave the radio off. If somebody's hollering at us or honking, we want to be able to hear if we're about to get into a bad situation. So stop your conversations. If somebody's in the vehicle, ask them, hey, can you watch for me back there? And eliminate those forms of distraction. And Debbie is ever vigilant there. She says that steering wheel's on the wrong side in that car. That makes for a harder back. Absolutely. All right, so selecting our parking spot. If we can get a pull-through spot, park away from large vehicles. Why would a large vehicle be a problem? Well, I can park next to it so the shopping carts won't run into my car. Well, that large vehicle is going to make it really hard to see as you pull out or back out. So pick your parking spot carefully. And like I do, when I go to the grocery store, I park in the North 40 where I can get a pull-through spot, and there's not other vehicles out there that might be likely to damage my vehicle. Here's another technique. Back upon arrival. What does that mean? Well, a lot of you may have observed that law enforcement officers, when they get to a parking lot, they back in when they arrive. They back into the spot. What is the difference between backing when you arrive and backing after when it's time to leave? Well, in the law enforcement world, they do it mostly so they can make a quick escape, right? So they can get out of that area and go to that call that somebody needs help right now. And that's a good positive reason for that. But the most important part of it is it allows us to pull out of that spot and have full vision as we're pulling out. That's a lot safer for us to do. As we're pulling in, when I arrive at that parking spot, it might be like this picture here. There are no other vehicles in the entire parking lot, and even if I'm a terrible backer, I got a pretty good shot of backing into this parking spot without causing any damage. So let's back when we arrive. I've got much better situational awareness when I arrive at that parking spot. So watch your surroundings and back when you arrive. We need to know our equipment. Some vehicles have much larger blind spots than others. And obviously, if you're driving a semi truck with a 53-foot box trailer on it, that's going to have some major blind spots, and you better be pretty good with your mirrors in backing that vehicle up. But what a lot of people may not realize is something as you see in this picture here, something as simple as a little panel band, just one that a contractor or many of you use in your operations, has some pretty major blind spots. And so we need to be aware of those things, and that puts a lot more onus on us to know what our environment is and to avoid the need to back if at all possible. Okay? What about backup cameras? I've had a lot of people say, well, I've got a backup camera, I'm good. I don't have to worry about backing at all anymore because I got a camera, I can see what's happening. Well, I'm here to tell you, if you go through life with that attitude, you will have crashes. You will have backing crashes. We love backup cameras at the Trust. We put them on all of our vehicles, and we recommend that you should make that a standard requirement of any vehicle that you purchase, is that it either comes standard equipped with that backup camera or you install one after the fact. We like those, but they are not the silver bullet. They're not the thing that will fix the problem of backing crashes. They're just a tool that goes along with all of the other tools that we have to safely back up. So I definitely highly recommend that, but you've still got to turn your head. You've still got to look at your mirrors to get the entire picture. That backup camera only gives you a limited view of what's happening. You can't see what's on the side of your vehicles. Some vehicles have sensors that will have an audible alarm if you're getting close to something. That doesn't always work. A small child or something smaller like that, you may not your sensors may not pick that up. So use your backup cameras, enjoy those, but realize that they have limitations, and learn what they are and work through those. Okay. Here's one of the most important techniques that you can put into your daily driving, and that's called GOLD, get out and look. And this is making a standard practice for ourselves. This is a personal thing. I hope you'll have a backing policy where you work, but this is a personal thing that you make a commitment. I'm not going to run over a kid, and so to make sure that never happens, I'm going to walk behind my vehicle every time before I back up. What does that do for you? Just walking around the back of your vehicle, and of course we'd like you to walk on all four sides of your vehicle so you can see if there's damage or anything else, but just walking around the back gives me an awareness of what's there. The kids out playing back behind, there's a tricycle there, whatever hazard might be, that pole in the parking lot. Just the fact of us making our goal walk around will increase our awareness and reduce the chance that we'll ever have one of those horrific things of having a child behind us and maybe running over that child. In some situations, we may want to use a spotter. If we have the option, I've got a coworker there, and I've got a vehicle that's difficult to back, maybe some fire apparatus or a big truck. Use that spotter. Now, this is not an easy. You say, "Oh yeah, I can jump out and I'll guide that person in." Acting as a spotter is an important role, and you need to be on the same page as the driver. So you need to know the same hand gestures. What are the signals that tell me that I need to stop? And because you have a spotter doesn't take away your responsibility as the driver. You are still responsible for that back. So you still need to be taking in all of the information. You should always be able to see the spotter, and Debbie points out, but the spotter in this picture should be wearing high visibility vest, and we'll talk about that in the next slide. You're absolutely right. The spotter needs to always be visible. If you're the driver and you can't see the spotter, you stop until that spotter is visible, or you can hear sounds coming from underneath your tires. No, that spotter should always be visible. And Debbie, of course, came up with staying visible. I throw this slide in because whether you're a spotter or you're working out on the road somewhere, you're at high risk. How do I know that? I drive a lot. And I see a lot of people doing very risky behaviors every day, whether they're texting or they're doing some other task that takes their eyes or their attention away from the road. You're at high risk if you're working in the right-of-way. So I don't care what your job is. If you're working in the right-of-way, you're required to wear these reflective garments. And it's going to differ based on the speed of the traffic and the type of work that you're doing. But I don't care if you're in law enforcement or fire service or you're a street and road worker. You've got to have this stuff on, or a meter reader for that matter. If you're working in the right-of-way, which is sidewalk to sidewalk, you have to have this on. And do I say this just to be a drag, just to be that guy that wants us to be out in this type of stuff? No. You know, we're at a kind of a sad anniversary. It's a little over a year, but we lost a highway patrol trooper on a freeway up north in Box Elder County just over a year ago. And I don't know all the details on that, but I do know I see a lot of situations where our people are at risk. Okay. All right. Let's see. Question: doesn't federal law require high vis when in the right of way on a federal highway? It's actually under the MUTCD. I'll try not to say all that back because I'd probably say it wrong. Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices, and it's required for any within the right of way. So, parking policy. Do we memorialize the techniques that we've talked about in this webinar in a policy? I recommend it. I think that sends a signal, just the same as a seatbelt policy, even though it's federal law, or it's state law, excuse me, it's state law, federal for commercial. Even though it's state law that we do that, I still say that we need to have a seatbelt policy. So we say our organization is serious about safety, and we should have a backing policy and a parking policy. This is how we operate. And if we can take a pull-through spot, we're going to do it. If I arrive at the parking spot and I have to back, I'm going to back into that spot. That tells everybody in the organization that this is important. And if you want to go beyond that and implement something where we have the cone, you've probably seen many of the utility companies that will place a cone at the back at least, and many times the back and front of the vehicle. Well, that's a simple program to get that driver to walk to the back and front of the vehicle and see what's there. Make sure there isn't a child or something that they're going to damage in backing maneuver or pulling out of that spot in a forward direction. But whatever it is that you decide to implement, let's take it to heart and put this into our regular training and regular practice. And if you're a supervisor, let's check people on this, whether it's seatbelts or backing policy. Let's make sure that we're doing this right, because this is 100% preventable, and we can do it if we work together on this. So, just in summary, backing accidents are preventable. This is one of the most dangerous tasks that you will do today, is backing your vehicle out. So focus is demanded. We drive less than 1% of our miles in reverse, but that accounts for a big percentage of our accidents that we have, so that requires 100% attention. Turn the radio off, turn the cell phone off, whatever it is that we're doing that takes our attention away, get rid of it until we're back on the road, and then we can tune the radio. We can do those things. Hopefully you'll do that before you move. But let's get ourselves in a safer situation before we do that. Okay, that's the webinar for today, folks. If you've got questions, please go ahead and type them into the chat box. I'd be happy to answer those. Doug Brent, what did I forget?
Good job there, Jason.
Didn't forget anything.
Oh, covered it. Let's see. All right, looks like we just got a thank you. Appreciate it, Debbie. You're always good for questions and to keep us on track. And we appreciate everybody out there. Good group of folks on here. We had about half the people sign in who had signed up for the course. We are recording it. We'll put it up on the website probably this afternoon, if not probably tomorrow, just depending on IT support for getting that up. And we will, and then you can share this with coworkers or with your family members as well. We think this is something that we should take home with us and just make a part of our practice. Thanks, everybody. Go out and have a safe day.